Welcome to Inside Edition. We're glad you joined us. I'm Nancy Glass. Bill O'Reilly is on assignment. Monster truck fans get a thrill by watching drivers take seemingly death-defying chances. But now it seems it's the fans who are risking death by going to these events. Tony Cox has the story.
I don't want them to turn their trucks over. If they do, that's an added attraction for the fans.
Most people want to see it crash. I mean, yeah, when they tip over, it's exciting, big time. But not when it goes into the crowd.
On March 7th, Chip Slattery was part of the crowd which came to the Niagara Falls Convention Center to see a monster truck race. He remembers thinking, even before the race began, that the action was just too close for comfort.
When I was in my seat, I was up high enough that I didn't feel at risk. But when I was standing right where I was allowed to stand, I was real scared. It's too much. They're massive. They're intimidating.
As it turned out, one truck was far more than intimidating. It was deadly. Chip had his video camera with him that night, and this is what he and a horrified crowd witnessed. Steve Pulowski and his 10-year-old son, Jason, were also in the stands that night, near where the truck hit.
I looked over, and I saw the truck push 3 or 4 other people out of the way, and I did all I could to keep Jason from looking over and seeing what was going on.
This is what he would have seen. Steve blindly snapped this shot as he and Jason were desperately racing out of harm's way. The man is Lester Gilliam, who had just plucked a young child from certain death by the oncoming runaway truck. Moments later, the 82-year-old man was dead, run down by a monster truck. Miraculously, Gilliam was the only fatality, and there was only a handful of injuries, none of them serious.
Did it hit people?
Months later, Jason still has nightmares about it.
I keep on seeing it coming up, and then I get a scare and wake up.
Monster truck racing is a relatively new sport and isn't regulated by a sanctioning body. For now, only insurance companies seem to have the clout to impose safety standards, and then only on a client-by-client basis. For years, the Monster Truck Racing Association, or MTRA, has been aggressively promoting safety in the sport. But membership by drivers and promoters is strictly voluntary, and the MTRA has no enforcement power.
We do our best to try and educate and have these people belong to our organization, but you can only do so much.
All right, welcome back to the Bottom Dead Center show here on the Old School Monster Trucks YouTube channel. Not our normal full throttle, we're happy, few dinguses doing a show about monster trucks. We're covering some pretty serious topics today here on BDC, and I'm joined by Matt Looker and Frank Krimmel joining us here. So good to have you both back together on the show this evening, fellas. It's been a hot minute since the three of us were all able to be on together.
Yeah, it has. It's good to be back.
So
all three of us.
We owe you guys a couple episodes. We've got our Dan Patrick episode still in the works, which that when Frank was with me for that interview, and I'm slowly creeping towards the final minutes of editing that interview together, Frank, and I'm struggling to summit Mount Everest there, but
Yeah.
and that's a that's a inside joke that we don't really get to share with everybody, but so we got that episode coming, and no doubt we have some lighter hearted stuff that we want to bring to you guys soon, but we roll out of the cold open there, and we saw the footage from the 92 Inside Edition show where they talked about the Van Loo incident in Niagara Falls. And here we are, 3 decades and change later. And with this recent incident, with the Jeep in Columbia, which has made the rounds all over the internet, the monster truck community. I mean, we're not going to go into showing a ton of clips of it tonight or trying to break it down frame by frame. We're not forensic investigators or anything like that. I think what we are, speaking for the three of us and so many others in the sport, is we're just deathly concerned and wondering why we're still seeing in Columbia, but also here in the States, we're still seeing shows where fans are being put in positions where one small mechanical failure or error in judgment by a driver could have virtually the same catastrophic results of what we saw in Columbia. But guys, the Columbia thing, first off, I've seen a lot of people in the monster truck fan community and the motorsports fan community reacting what I would call appropriately, right? Terror, sadness, frustration, some anger, that sort of thing. I've also seen some really stupid fucking comments out there that I'm not gonna dignify by pointing them out directly or specifically. But I think the big thing that I look at with this is monster trucks and any kind of motorsports like to talk up about how it's a global phenomenon. It's something fans around the globe love monster trucks, and we know this to be true. And I just feel awful because I don't feel like fans in Colombia or France or Australia or Singapore or China or Japan or the United States, nobody deserves to be put in a situation like those folks were there. And we talked before we got on the show, and I'm going to throw it to you first on this, Frank, and then I want to get Matt's perspective. But driver to driver here, Frank, we know people will sit, stand, or whatever anywhere you let them to watch a monster truck run, because 99% of them have no idea what our trucks are. These things are really capable of in both good and bad situations, but they're trusting us as drivers, promoters, safety techs, venues and venue managers, those sort of people even. They're trusting that all of us have calculated everything correctly and that we're allowing those people into the correct area. I mean, you can't tell me there's not a bunch of hillbillies in Alabama that would gladly sit inside the racetrack boundaries on the tri-oval grass to watch the big one happen if somebody'd let them, right? Folks will go anywhere that you'll let them go. So it's up to the industry as a whole to stop this from happening. So, Frank, I kind of want your perspective on, a very current driver, certainly the most successful driver, of our OSMT roster. Tell me from your point of view, when you saw that video and you see videos of shows happening here in the US right now and in other places where there's nothing virtually between the people and the trucks, what is your impression of all that?
Well, to be honest, it goes back to what I tell people all the time. And, I've been in this business a long time, been driving these trucks for a long time. And, I always tell people the trucks will remind you, maybe not the most ideal time, that they are running the show. They're the boss. The trucks are the boss. And as much control as I think I have, and I, assume that I have over this 12,000 pound, 1,400 horsepower monster, I don't. I mean, I do have control over it, but you're one mechanical failure away from something stupid happening that it's going to surprise you. And Kyle, as comfortable as you are in these trucks, and I'm super comfortable in them, but you're one mechanical failure away from something coming out of left field and surprising you. Yeah. And I think that's what this whole thing in Columbia just reminds everybody of is that these trucks, it doesn't matter if it was built last month or 20 years ago, they're going to remind you that they're the boss. And you have to respect the truck. Every time I get in my truck, and this is going to sound corny, Kyle, and you probably did some of the same things. I walk up to it pre-show, go to get in it for intros and say, all right, sweetie, take care of me. I'm going to take care of you. Let's get through this.
Yep.
And I do it every single time, get in there and I strap in, calm down, think of my family, think of my friends, because, as controlled as everything we do is, there's no guarantees. You're in a motorsport vehicle. So
right.
You're one bad hit away from never driving one of these trucks again. And we have to be honest with that. That's the scary truth. But you are one stupid hit, one parts failure away from never sitting in a monster truck again. And like the Columbia thing, the fans, they paid their admission. They came in, they sat down. They gave the promoter or whoever was putting this on, they gave them the benefit of the doubt that they were safe. And that happens everywhere you go. It's baseball games, any baseball, hockey, football. You just assume you're safe. And I guess, and the term about assumption, if you assume, which that's not exactly correct, because you go to something, a motorsport event, you sit at the Indy 500, you sit 10 rows up, you think you're safe, but you're actually not. But if you read the back of your ticket, that's the waiver. And we get spoiled over here because I've run for some great promoters and some not so great promoters, but when it comes down to it, it comes down to the person in the truck. And I've been in shows to where I'll sit in the truck and stage me for racing, and I'll look and see some little kid right down there by the K rail, and I'm like, nope, I'm not doing this. And that comes with experience and coming with floor awareness and track awareness. But not everybody has that. Some inexperienced drivers don't have that. They're so focused on driving this 12,000 pound thing. All they're worrying about is starting it and lining up and making sure they're lined up. But I'm at the point now in my career, which I was at this point a long time ago, not to sound arrogant or anything. I'm just saying I look around more than I do. I'm not even worried about the truck or if it's going to start. I just always, whenever I back up and they shut me off to test for an RI run or RI test, I look around and just kind of read the room. And if I don't feel comfortable, if the green light's even on, I'm not starting that thing unless I feel comfortable. I'll get on the radio and talk to the track officials, talk to my crew guy and say, hey man, there's something over here. Can somebody look at this? I'm not moving this thing until I feel comfortable. And like I said, though, the Columbia thing, just a tragedy. And but we all have to remember that this industry is connected by 66-inch tires. It doesn't matter what brand, what make, or what kind of chassis under it. If it's got 66-inch tires on it, it's a monster truck, and it's going to affect the entire industry. So we all have to be super cautious. And I don't know who's watching or who's listening, but if you're sitting in a truck at X show in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or you're just read the room, look around, and when the track official tells you to go, you don't always have to go. So it's just one of those things to where we just need to be careful and try to even get tighter as a community and as an industry, because if we don't, this stuff is going to keep happening, and it eventually is going to change monster trucks the way we know it.
I think it all has the potential to affect the lives of anyone that makes a living in the sport from that economic standpoint, even to the point. Well, I mean, let's back this up. So this has always been a point of contention I've had with the whole mega truck thing. I don't have a problem with mega truck guys being mega truck guys and doing mega truck stuff, but I guess where my concern has always been is that they look like a monster truck to the layman, right? Certainly an ambitious news reporter or journalist, if they see one of those things tear off through the pits or something and hurt a bunch of people, monster truck, runs over 7 in Ocala, Florida or whatever. We all know that's not a monster truck, but they don't, and they don't particularly care to make the distinction either. And so then that's bad, for monster trucks altogether, right? Even though that thing is monster truck adjacent, and some of them run RIIs and all that stuff, and good on them, if they're running them and they have people operating, radios and stuff. But this thing happened in Colombia. The world's a much smaller place than it was in 1992. If you didn't catch the right news blurb, or you weren't in the Buffalo Niagara Falls area, maybe, or you didn't watch Inside Edition, you might not have known ever, that tragic incident happened at Niagara Falls. The entire fucking internet has blown up over this Columbia deal. And I mean, it was I mean, and it just shows you how quick your feed, the algorithm preys on you. I mean, I found one video of it on Instagram, and then my feed was just clobbered by it for weeks on end, it felt like. And I told you guys before we started, I mean, the victims of that incident, their faces are seared into my mind. The video is seared into my mind frame by frame. I'm really disappointed, but not surprised. And this is strictly my opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody else. I am very disappointed in Steve Hurley and any of the other people that have anything to do with that operation down there, but I'm not surprised. I'll just say that I'm not surprised. I'm really frustrated, really angry on behalf of those families and those victims. Because again, those people didn't get the Indy 500 ticket with the fine print waiver on the back that was at least backed up by a track and an organization and a sanctioning body that did everything realistic we could all think of to mitigate the danger of somebody being hurt at that event. There was no mitigation of danger to spectators at this event. And there's events here in the States where there's, and we've done them, dude. Like, we've all been a part of some kind of an event where we got there as a driver or a tech or a crew guy or something, and we're like, fuck, this is not ideal. And we've all done shows. I've done a gazillion car crushes in Bigfoot trucks at Firestone stores where it's not ideal. I mean, the most ideal thing to me is a giant ass stadium ringed by dumpsters and the trucks are far away from everybody, right? Like that's great, but your local Firestone store or the Hardy Murphy Coliseum in Ardmore, Oklahoma isn't I mean, as soon as you ring the stands with dumpsters in that building, then there's nowhere to run the monster truck. But that's where then the monster truck doesn't need to be there, does it? Well, no, it doesn't need to be there necessarily. However, as long as somebody's livelihood is connected, as long as you've got promoters that are willing to go do these little buildings where maybe a monster truck isn't the smartest thing to run in there, as long as these venues are willing to risk their own facility and their patrons' safety, then we're going to keep seeing potential for these things to happen. So, Looker, from your standpoint, again, I'm not saying we got to break this down, frame by frame, but you're a very experienced RII operator, a very experienced event producer, announcer, and all that stuff. Where's your head at watching that video when you did, and what do you see going on there?
Well, I'll say a couple things came to my mind as both you guys were talking. My full-time job at home when I'm not doing monster trucks is not motorsport related. It's not blue collar. It's way in the other end. And I had about 10 people send me that video, and we're like, one guy that sent it to me when I saw him at work the next couple of days, he's like, man, what do you think caused that? And I'm like, buddy, how much time you got? There's so many factors that go into that one accident. The setup of it, the truck, the driver. I don't know how long she's been driving for, whatever. Anyways, you hear about it. People that aren't monster truck people, they don't know. They just hear that it's a monster truck. They see a big truck. And you're 100% right about mega trucks. It's not to take anything away from them guys or to cast aspersions on them. But if it looks like a big truck, it's a monster truck in the media. And that's unfortunate for us, but it's the way of the world. The other thing, Frank, when you were saying how the trucks are in control, I'm very glad you said that, because we all know it. And I think everyone should, if you've been involved with this at all. One year that I did the Georgia Dome with Monster Jam, Ringling Brothers was in town at whatever arena is in Atlanta. I can't remember. It's not the Omni, because I would have remembered that from the TNT days. But we went to a kind of a backstage tour of the circus, probably about 10, 15 of us. And one of the lion tamers sincerely, his like main question, he was showing us their deal. This is a guy that deals with lions and tigers. His like on his mind was like, how do you guys control the trucks? And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, you work with a wild animal that eats people, and like you can't believe that we can control a machine, but it's true. Like anyone that has a presence of mind to like step back and look at this thing that weighs over 10,000 pounds, that jumps 30 feet in the air, how do you control that? And it's very important to have that mindset when you go into it. Obviously, the list of people that were involved in this, not show, whatever it was in Colombia, didn't have that in mind. Yeah, it's unfortunate that that happened. 15 years ago, I was at a Monster Jam in Mexico, and a similar thing to this happened. Almost the exact same thing. It was the old overkill. Remember when that happened in Central America? So these things these things unfortunately are not going away. They're not new. They're going to happen again. It sucks. I think Frank's right. Unless something happens that makes a dramatic change in the industry, I don't see these going away. It's really an unfortunate thing. And the other thing that came to mind, when you're doing these events, you need to keep in mind, not only for whatever tragedy that will happen, kind of not as bothersome, but if that happens in a small town, within a 50-mile radius, those kids and adults will not see another monster truck show in their probably in 20 years. There won't be monster trucks in their community because of this accident that happened. And like I said, it's not as important as somebody getting hurt, but it's very disappointing for all these kids that love coming to monster truck shows. They're not going to see it in their childhood or adulthood because a promoter and a driver and other people decided to make poor decisions and caused an accident. There's so much unfortunate things that happen sometimes when not all the proper precautions are taken.
Well, and that's just it, right? Like we can't prevent every tragedy, but you mitigate things. I mean, and mitigation works. In a perfect example, now this isn't a spectator thing, but look at the crash that Romain Grosjean had in Formula One a handful of years ago at Bahrain, when he was driving for Haas F1, and his car spins. He goes into the Onco, the metal, guardrail type barriers, which it staggers me that grade 1 FIA tracks can have those kind of barriers, but the car disintegrates. The hybrid system and the battery and the fuel, everything goes up in the worst fire that I think I've ever seen in a modern open wheel race car. The car is split between these metal pieces on the barrier, and somehow Grosjean still gets out because his fire safety gear worked, the halo on the cockpit of the car worked. And there's no reason that guy should have been in the fire for 20 seconds and survived like he did with relatively minimal injuries. And it was the steps to mitigation. It was the the money and the effort that the FIA and Formula One and that Haas F1 had dumped into all of that to protect one human life. But that's hugely important. The man has a wife. He has a family. He has fans. But any race car driver I know pretty much is of the mindset, if I go out while I'm racing, I go out while I'm racing. And I hear fans, I've seen the shit on the comment sections lately again. Like, I could sit however close I want to sit. I don't care if something happens to me. That's my risk. I'm taking that risk. That's me choosing to sit there. You ain't got to sit there. Did you die? No, you didn't. You went to the show, blah, blah, blah. That's such backwards fucking logic. And Matt and Frank, that we know that if like what happened in Colombia happens at a show that any of us are at, we're going to be, and so are the people around us and the people that have to respond to the victims. Everyone's going to be dealing with some kind of trauma and lasting, mental issues from something like that.
Oh, there we go. Oh, you broke up for a sec, so I had started talking. Sorry about that.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
One thing that came to mind, and it's not every one of these people, but you both are going to know exactly where I'm going with this. I think the worst, from a safety standpoint, the worst person sometimes is the 20-year veteran building security guy.
Yeah.
A lot of times at shows, I'll be in a VOM or a tunnel, like a side tunnel running RII, and the building guy wants to pull up a chair right where I'm sitting. It's not because you can't be where I am. It's because I'm better than you. You can't be in a chair because you need to run.
Yeah.
And I had one in Grand Rapids on the opposite end of the entrance. There's a little side tunnel. It's just wide enough for the halo of Gravedigger to sit in. That's called foreshadowing. And I was sitting there, and the building guy, he's like, he pulls a chair up. I said, dude, you really can't sit there. Like, sometimes trucks will, whatever. He's like, no, I've sat here for 20 years. Say, okay, number one, you've done one show a year for 20 years. I did this many this year. And number two, like, no, we're not doing this. He got all mad, and then Digger endoed right into that area. And I was able to run back because I'm watching, and somehow no building damage was done. But I looked at the guy and I pointed at the truck. I said, that's why you don't sit there. Thank you. Now moving on. Anyways.
No, absolutely. And I apologize where my freaking computer might have stalled out or broke out there. But where I was going with my rant is the people that act like it's their choice and it only affects them if they, and I'm going to use trigger warning, everybody. I'm going to use some coarse descriptions here, but I want to make my point. If you get splattered 5 rows in front of me and my kids by a truck, God forbid, that's not just your problem. The first responders have to respond to that. Your next of kin you left behind has to deal with that mess. The driver of the truck that now knows he's killed somebody with his truck has to live with that. I mean, my best friend of 30 years, who just left the Wyoming Highway Patrol after 20 some odd years of service as a captain, has told me repeatedly about the worst parts of his job. And it's always responding to the scene of an accident. You know, a tractor trailer flopped over with fucking fertilizer dumped out of it isn't that bad of a day compared to coming up on the accident scene where a family of 4 gruesomely met their end. And that's the same as a monster truck fan saying, it's my choice. If my family and I want to sit there, we'll take the risk. That's on us. No, it's not. No, it's not. Because when you check out, it's still on a lot of other people to deal with what happened there. And no arena full of people deserves to see that either. It's just so much better if everybody just goes home safe and in one piece at the end of the night. And moving 4 rows down isn't going to make the show that much better that it's worth your safety or anyone else's. And we've all done gigs in buildings where the safety holds could have been bigger because there was enough seating in the building to just move everybody up. And the fucking stands would have looked fuller anyways. That's the part that kills me, guys. I see a place with hardly any safety holds being used, and there's empty seats everywhere. And I'm like, if you just squish everybody up higher into the safer area, your seats look fuller, and you've got better safety holds. It's a win-win. Why wouldn't you do that, right? Let's be positive. Credit to the promoters that are out there doing the things right. And we're not going to run down a roll call list and all that stuff. But Frank, you run for one of the promoters that's doing things right. Looker, you do shows for one of the promoters that's doing things right. You guys, these companies are being cognizant of the risk factors that their patrons and their staff and their performers, have in front of them. And they're trying to mitigate those things. And that's all anybody's asking. Nobody's telling you don't do shows in horse barns. They're saying find a way to be smarter about doing your shows in your horse barns. And I would argue if you can't do a show safely with just basic, simple, common sense safety, factors in place, then you probably shouldn't be doing shows there, should you? There's a thought. But as long as there's people trying to make a living doing this stuff and that's where their outlets are, then to your point, Matt, yeah, we're still going to have that. And another point I want to bring up along this that I've seen people talking about is I've seen the MTRA's name brought up and drug into some of this stuff. And, what can the MTRA do? And I'm not saying they're a powerless organization out of disrespect for them, but they're an advisory group, right? An advisory board or something, and they have great intentions, no doubt. But until they have some kind of authority, which they've arguably never really had, but they certainly don't, I don't think now. And again, I'm not degrading them. I'm just pointing out this is kind of how this business works. then until somebody that controls people's ability to line their pockets and pay their bills, like an insurance company, uh, forces changes to be made, then what's going to change? If you're XYZ, 2-bit monster truck promoter and you're doing horse sheds with nothing but steel, fencing tubing between the people and you, I don't know who's insuring you. I hope you're insured, but I don't know who's insuring you. But I bet if your insurer comes to you and says, we're sending assessors to some of your events and we want to see that you're following XYZ kind of safety protocol as recommended by the MTRA, or we want to see you do things like Hot Wheels does or do things like Monster Jam does. And until somebody makes them do that stuff, I guess, I mean, I'm not a very smart guy, so I don't know. Maybe it won't change anything, but I would certainly, if my insurance company showed up at my front door and said, we're going to ride with you in your pickup truck a couple times a week randomly and see how you drive, and we're going to set your insurance rate or even your ability to be insured based on your driving, I'm probably going to watch my driving pretty good. Not, I think I do anyways, but boy, there's nothing like being under the microscope to make you tighten things up a little bit. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that as far as the MTRA goes, but I just don't see, like, it's almost unfair to drag them into this like they could do something about it.
Yeah, I don't think they could really do anything about it. It's like you said, it's no disrespect to them. I think it's cool, especially more back in the day than now. You'd see MTRA certified on a truck chassis. That always was like a badge of honor. But even then, when they were the arguably more, I guess, present in the upper echelon of monster trucks, again, no disrespect to them. Even then, when they were more involved in that, they did not control what happened at the shows. They were just a some like a notch on your belt. Say, hey, we got this behind us. But it's not, oh, we can't come to a show because we're not MTRA certified. Unfortunately, I don't think they'll ever have.
Frank,
have
you make
not that never will, but
right. Well, Frank, you make a lot of your living in arenas, right? I've certainly done it. Looker's done plenty. I see, that's my next point. I see people saying we need to get these, and this goes back to the Blake Granger thing, tumbling Dalmatian out of the arena in Huntsville, the repurposed Nazi aeronautics scientist arena, as I like to call it, the Von Braun Civic Center. History joke. I had to work that in. But yeah, or call it Operation Paperclip Arena. That one's for you, Matt Stoltz. Anyways, it goes back to that and some of the other incidents we've had lately. And people are saying, they're mad that Blake got fired from Monster Jam and all this. And they're saying, get monster trucks out of these damn little arenas and all this shit. That's not the problem here. In the case of these well-ran, well-managed arena shows, I mean, what happened with Blake tumbling his truck out of the arena, set aside that specifically what led to it happening, but the fact that it happened and there wasn't a tunnel full of people, I feel like I've done a lot of arena shows where there would have been a tunnel full of people. And not just monster truck people, but like you're saying, Matt, the EMTs sitting on their chairs, taking videos with their cell phones, the local fire department grab-assing in the tunnel, watching the show like they do every year, the security guard that, is standing there with their earplugs in and has watched the show, like you said, every year for 20 years, so they know everything that's going to happen already. And that truck could have wiped out a slew of folks. But thank goodness, Feld and Monster Jam had that tunnel cleared as it should have been. And thankfully nobody got hurt. But taking the trucks out of these arenas, that you want to talk about crippling the industry too, from a business standpoint. That's the vast majority. I mean, I wouldn't try and assign a percentage to it and feel like I'm accurate, but here I go. Holy shit. I'm sure like 80% of people that go to monster truck shows indoors have to see them in arenas rather than domes or something along those lines. Dome shows are not nearly as prevalent if you really think about it compared to arena shows. I mean, Frank, what do you do? 20, 30 arenas a year? I mean, my gosh.
I mean, this year we're doing 39 arena weekends in one stadium. One. So it goes back to what we said earlier. It's like, sure, you want to change this and change that, but for every monster, like the whole Huntsville thing, that is what it is, and I can't say enough about what Monster Jam does to make their events as safe as possible. And thank God their protocols and everything were in place to keep that tunnel clear. But just like that tunnel being clear, there are guys working on trucks, and we've all been there to where you think you're outside, you think you're fine. Who at that building thought that that truck was going to come shooting out of the building? I guarantee you nobody.
That's right. That's
Nobody.
right.
Right.
Somewhere there is CCTV footage from a security camera pointed at that
Yeah.
back door that everything looks normal, and then all of a sudden off from
Here it
like
comes.
out of camera, boom, 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 there goes a monster truck tumbling, and you're like,
Yeah.
holy shit. And Frank, you've seen, I know, Matt, you probably have too at safety summits and stuff like that. I've seen footage like that too, where everything in the world looks normal on the video clip, and then in a split second, all hell breaks loose. And I think that's what we're all getting at here with these things is if they're managed and driven and operated and everything as responsibly as possible, while there still is a chance that that hell can break loose, why wouldn't we mitigate it to the furthest extent possible? Why wouldn't we try and keep all hell from breaking loose? It's wild to me. Pulling these things out of, I mean, you're out of a job, Frank. Like if they pull trucks out of arenas, you're out of a job. Not because you suck, not because Steve Sims' trucks aren't any good, not because Hot Wheels is for a younger demographic than Monster Jam. It's because that's bread and butter right there. Like the fucking Rolling Stones didn't play stadiums their whole career. They had to play music halls and arenas and theaters. Like those venues all exist in different sizes for a reason because commerce has to take place and those buildings need to get used and touring properties need to use them to make their money. Taking the monster trucks out of the arena is not the thing. Expecting monster trucks to perform in an arena like they do in a stadium, and in some cases trying to set them up or set the track up to replicate that, to me, that's the problem. I think that's what it is. You can still have a badass arena show. Toughest is a great example of that. But you don't, I mean, my God, I was in Casper in February. I've raced in that building at the Ed Beckley Super Double Throwdown Nationals, and I felt like my truck barely left the ground compared to what Basil and Too Tall and all these guys are doing with their trucks. But they looked more in control even than we did when we were doing shows 10 years prior. You build the tracks correctly and you get the correct people operating the trucks. I still think you can find a happy medium. Matt, tell me what you think on that. You're in these shows more than me. I think a happy medium can be achieved, but I don't think this dumbass idea of just getting rid of arena shows is the fix to this.
No, and let me tell you what, the people that are calling for taking monster trucks out of arenas, they need to list every rodeo ground, every speedway, every fairgrounds in that list, because I guarantee you those are more dangerous if you had to throw a blanket on them than any arena. Okay, so the people that say take monster trucks out of arenas, I'd tell anyone right to their face, you ain't got a clue, bud or chick. You ain't got a clue. Just keep your comments to yourself because you don't know how the shows are run. You don't know what the trucks are capable of, and you don't know what goes into setting up an arena. And I think looking at that, because Blake got fired, that's between him and his boss, but all the safety systems worked. I don't even know if any building damage happened because they had dumpsters in the way. I think either the show after or before, Gravedigger did a very similar thing, and he tapped one of the dumpsters. That kept the building from getting damaged. There was no one on the floor, so no actual danger. And the way Blake did it, he would have hit a dumpster on the way out of the building if he wasn't dead center. So really, from a show perspective, everything worked good there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's great that a truck ended up in the parking lot, but there were no people around. The building itself was protected. Building damage happens, here and there, not every weekend, but here and there it happens every year. It's usually not structural, and it's usually not where people are getting injured. It's a retractable gets bumped by a truck, and now there's thousands of dollars that has to be, paid. Whatever. There's insurance for that, but safety wise, there was really nothing that stood out to me. When I was watching it, I was going, whoa, I don't think I'd try to save it right there because you might end up outside the arena. So, him getting fired, that was not a symptom of that wreck. That had to be a long time coming, in my opinion. But either way, there's, the lineup for World Finals, they're not missing a truck. They're not missing, the show's not going to really lack because they missed one driver, right?
No.
Honestly, let's move on.
No, I agree. If anything, and you guys know because you've both worked for the company, but they've analyzed and reanalyzed and overanalyzed everything that truck could have
Oh yeah.
done other than what it
Oh
did.
yeah.
And what a 1 in a million, maybe not 1 in a million, but I mean, that's a freak shot that truck made, that everything that Blake did to allow that or cause that to happen. And then the truck, like, it's that monster truck luck in some respects, where like we come off with all these close calls and it goes flying out the arena and basically doesn't touch anything, or thank goodness not anybody. Um, that's incredible, but I think that is a testament to the mitigation, because if you could magically cut that incident out and then drop it into the middle of small fairground shows or horse barn shows, or some of these other places you're talking about, Matt, that could have ended very differently, especially depending on which direction this action was taking place in, not just pointed straight out the back door of the building type deal. um, just incredibly fortunate, that it went that way. But there's been so much happen between that, a couple other building damage or close call incidents, the Colombian incident. There's been a lot happen in this short period of time, and it's put all of this monster truck stuff under the microscope. And I think we need to be using it as a wake up call at the end of the day. From everything from guys that complain in the summer it's too hot driving their monster trucks, so they don't wear gloves and they roll their fire suit arms up. How fucking brilliant is that? Like, just why are you even wearing a fire suit then, dude? To people running in these horse barns with no safety holds or anything like that. I mean, boy, we're all just, I mean, if hope is part of your business plan, in arguably the biggest part of your business plan, you shouldn't be in business then, man. You're not doing it right. Like, if you can't find a way to be profitable and you can't afford to do it correctly, then just, I'm sorry, maybe you just got to do something else or go work for somebody that's doing it correctly. And I mean, I'll catch some hate for that statement, and I don't care. I work in the real world. I've made my money outside of monster trucks for 14 years now. I've had an inordinate amount of time to sit back and watch how the industry does business, and continually be stunned when I circle back and I see that is a really good monster truck I'm watching in this video, and it appears to be driven by a really good monster truck driver. But why is he operating that truck in this way in the space that he's in? Because that's really, really bad. And that kind of brings me to my last point I want to bring up on this. But before I do, I want to give both of you guys the floor back a little, because I'm getting off on these rants of mine. But Matt, it looked like you wanted to chime in there. I'm sorry.
No, no, that's fine. I have a bad habit of monster truck name, by the way. I have a bad habit of remembering things as, yeah, the Intimidator. Let's keep in mind, as kind of an asterisk to this whole conversation, the RII, the last two words of RII is ignition interrupter. It doesn't apply the brakes. It doesn't stop forward momentum. It doesn't steer the truck, and it doesn't move people out of the way. So if you were watching the Blake thing and you're one of the many people that commented the RII should have been used sooner, you're wrong. There's no discussing it. You're wrong. Because when he got up on the two front wheels, if you clipped him there, you arguably could have sent the truck into a forward flip and ended up into the wall. You don't know what would happen, but it would not have stopped the truck from going as far as it would have. Conversely, an RII would have stopped probably 90% of what happened in Colombia.
Yeah.
Because any RII operator, you see the truck on under power where it shouldn't be, click, and it coasts. Now, it might have caused some damage, but it wouldn't have run over 20 people or whatever it did. I just wanted to mention that. I feel like the RII, it's not a respawn in a video game. It's the truck's engine is not currently powering the truck anymore, and that's it.
Well, and the deal with the Columbia thing, and I've yet to be able to fully, to my satisfaction at least, determine what exactly happened mechanically on that vehicle or whatever. But I think it's fairly clear. We see the throttle stick, and it feels like a lifetime, doesn't it? Like, from the time the throttle sticks on the set of cars on that sort of rebound, and then as it's hauling ass and accelerating towards the people, and the driver appears to be sawing at the wheel trying to get the thing to complete a circle, which it's a turd of a monster truck. It shouldn't still be running. just period. It shouldn't be running. Frank's had enough. He's like, God damn it, Kyle, shut up. I'm leaving. No.
No, I'll be. I'm just grabbing my charger here.
Oh, I was gonna
That's
say,
all right.
don't pull a Mitch and stay mic'd up when you got to hit the outhouse.
Oh no, I'm good there.
On a lighter note, that was still one of the funniest things we've ever had happen on our show. Love you, Mitch. But anyways, she, but I don't feel like I saw her make any other attempts to stop the truck as far as like, not saying it's going to work, but shove it into neutral, shove it into reverse, hit a kill switch. It was sort of just like a panic. And we all know the brakes, just like the RII on a monster truck, are at a disadvantage compared to the truck's power and momentum.
Yeah.
Power, brakes are no friend to power and vice versa. And the RII can't stop momentum. It can stop additional momentum perhaps from happening, but the Blake thing, there was momentum, and an RII wouldn't have necessarily prevented those things from happening. To your point, Looker, the RII probably could have saved, I think, a lot of lives and injuries in Columbia, depending on when it would have been clicked. Because at least then the brakes would have a fucking fighting chance. I mean, if she's mashing the brakes and now the engine's not sending power to him, that's got to be better than what she was going against, right? Or gives her enough of a pause to collect herself and hit the kill switch. Frank, I've never had a throttle stick wide open on me, but I've definitely had, like, how an injector hat in certain conditions will ice up and you can feel the truck's like, "Ah," like still wanting to go. And you're like, holy shit, this throttle didn't come all the way back. That's scary enough. Never mind a wide open throttle catch like that. And it can happen to any, these things are all using the same equipment. Whatever caused her throttle to happen or to hang open, if that's what in fact it seems to have been, that could still happen to any piece of equipment here in the US or anywhere else around the globe.
Oh, absolutely. I've had the spring brake on the hot foot
Mm.
in doing a sky wheelie. Hit the throttle, do a sky wheelie, and you let your foot off there, and it keeps going. You're like, So then, what I do is tap the brake and hit the ignition, because just first thing you want to do is just shut the ignition off, because that'll obviously kill the power at least, but it's still not going to stop the truck. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand, is that the RI does not stop it. I mean, you could be doing a crazy donut and you get too close to a dasher, they click you. The truck has still got that 12,000 pounds behind it, even though the power is not laying to the ground, it still wants to move. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. But like, I couldn't agree with you more, Kyle and Matt, that an RII would have helped a ton in the Columbia situation. But we can Monday morning quarterback it all we want, but not going to change anything. But all we can do is look forward, look ahead, and try to. And it comes down to also Looker, and I think Kyle, both you guys will agree with this. I think we're getting to a period where drivers get a little too comfortable sometimes, and I think they don't maybe 100%. respect what the trucks can do and will do. And I think that comes with this new generation that grew up on sims and all that. I'm not saying that's bad, but it's great because it gives them more experience and stuff, that the advantages that a lot of guys like me and Kyle never had. But also too, the sim doesn't react like a real monster truck. It might give you the illusion, but when it comes down to stuff where the noises and the sounds and the smells and all the stuff happening and all the chaos in the cab of a monster truck, the sim doesn't get you ready for that. And when the stuff hits the fan, you're the last line of defense. And you can, the RII is great, and it's saved. I mean, I can even begin to say how many people and buildings and trucks and things the RII saved. It's been a godsend to monster trucks. But when it comes down to it, the driver is the last line of defense.
Yeah,
really.
Always will be. And if you're and I'm not being patronizing here, if you're not very technical fan, or maybe a newer fan to monster trucks, which if you're a newer fan to monster trucks and you've already stumbled on us, I'm sorry. But drive your car on an open piece of road where nobody's around that you're going to hurt yourself, and hold on to the wheel because you're going to lose power steering, but get going about 30 miles an hour, bump your shifter up into neutral and turn your car off. Okay. That's what the RII does. Now it's up to
Yeah.
you to apply the brakes, to put in steering input, to do something else to bring yourself safely to a stop, right? So that
And
makes you realize how important RIIs are, but also I don't want to say they're helpless, but an RII and a good RII operator can only do so much in a negative situation. And to Frank's point, there's a reason they're called simulators and not replicators, because no simulator can replicate the real life stresses and just the biochemical changes in things that are going through your body, your adrenaline and your stress level, your hydration level. How much sleep did you have last night? Did you have to, well, if you're a fleet driver, you probably didn't have to put a motor in the truck last night. But for old sons of bitches like us, Frank, that have had to do that, and in your case, maybe still have to do that, where's your fatigue level at? You can't replicate any of that stuff really in a simulator. And Frank, you know as well as I do, one of the times where the biggest mistakes can get made in monster trucks is when a driver is being rushed to get back into the seat and hurry up and perform. That is the
Yes.
absolute worst, in my opinion. It is the worst. It's you broke a sway bar in racing, and you're helping your crew guy, or you're by yourself and someone's helping you pound a new sway bar, and you had to run out to the trailer and get the sway bar, and then you got to change the arms out and undo and you're getting everything swapped out, and they're telling you, "Come on, man, hurry up! You got to run, or you got to get off the floor." And you're just scrambling, dude. And you're like, did I zip my fire suit up? Is my Hans hooked up? You have to remember all these things. We're not professional motorsports in the sense that we have all this time to get ready to make our pass, and we have crew guys fettering over every detail on the vehicle, and someone strapping us in and checking all our stuff. And oh, by the way, do you need Gatorade or water in your water bottle, Frank? Like, we don't have those
yeah.
luxuries. And that's the kind of stuff that you can't replicate in those simulators, I guess, is the yet again long-winded point I'm trying to get at. The environmental factors of performing as a monster truck driver are not to be minimized, I guess.
I think
Couldn't agree
one
more.
of sorry, just
Go ahead,
to make
bud.
a little, to add on to what you're saying, Kyle. Simulators are great for people like Bari, Tyler, Ryan, bunch of other ones. They've already crashed monster trucks. They already know what it feels like to land a 20-foot jump, and you didn't get your belts as tight as they should be.
Yep.
Okay, because that's when a mistake can happen too, when you land and realize, oh, now I can't breathe because I just knocked the wind out of me. I know for a fact Tyler didn't, because I was around him when he was basically interviewing. He wasn't on that simulator 10 hours a day before he got into a monster truck. You learn how to drive the truck first in little incremental steps up, and then you hone your craft with a simulator where you can go, okay, the physics are kind of right on this simulator. So if I bump the rear steer into the pod, will it make me throw the truck forward? And that's where the thought process ends. They're not saying, okay, now what does it feel like when I'm on the brakes looking at the ground? How do I reach for the shifter to shift into reverse? They just need to know, can I get the truck to do this with this move? And I'll practice that on a simulator. It's not the entire experience that you can take into a driver's seat. And I think a lot of people, a lot of inexperienced, kids, teenagers need to keep that in mind when they're playing the simulators. There's so much that doesn't transfer over.
Back in my day, the only simulator we had was holding the brake in Monster Truck Madness 2 to make it do a convoluted slap wheelie.
That's right.
Hold that
That's right.
brake.
That's right.
You could call for a Chinook helicopter to pick your ass up when you screwed up in MTM2. You can't do that in real life. Well, the last thing I wanted to touch on before we move on to a couple more points and wrap up what is actually a pretty concise edition of Bottom Dead Center this evening is the number of let's call them off-site car crush performances that monster trucks get called on to do. And I had the honor of working for two of the busiest monster truck teams when it came to doing off-site car crushes. And by off-site, I mean not at a performance venue, not a racetrack, not a stadium, not an arena, but at a Ford dealer, at a Dodge dealer, a Ram truck dealer, a Firestone store, that sort of thing. Anyways, I've run kill radio and crewed at a ton of those things, more than I can count. I've driven at more of them than I can count. And after this Columbia deal, I really went back. I know I sent you guys a couple videos.
Hey, Paul! You got that radio turned on? It is now, yes. All right, let's get them people pushed up against the building a little more, please. Okay. Thank you. I gotta have all them people clear, dude. I can't be running right at those guys. Okay. It looked horrible on my camera, dude.
Videos, I went back and looked at all my onboard footage from my Bigfoot days just to see how I was conducting myself as a driver. And just to be clear, most of the time as a Bigfoot driver, if you got sent to do, at least in that era, a car crush at a Firestone store, you didn't usually have a crew guy with you who was an experienced RII operator. So you were hoping maybe somebody from your regional Firestone office that had seen other Bigfoot car crushes was there to maybe run a radio, or excuse me, maybe there was like a race car guy in the service department of the Firestone store, or a GM with his head screwed on. And I'm not bitching or saying anything negative here. I am just saying that sucked, right? Like, imagine the pressure on your shoulders of being a Bigfoot driver, being a monster truck driver of any kind. You got to go crush cars in the field or the pasture or the little parking lot next to this Firestone store. It's a grand opening. Normal traffic and business and commerce is carrying on around your little performance area. You don't have a promoter staff to keep everybody for sure where they need to be safe in doing this. You don't have a trained crack squad of security guards that are keeping people where they need to be. You don't have a Matt Looker running kill radio for you who can almost think of what's going to happen before it even happens and knows what he's doing. So now you're showing the Firestone store general manager a video on YouTube of, see, now right here, if he would have not hit the RII, the driver could have drove out and it would have actually been safer and not a rollover, versus this clip here where, see, this kid goes running along the side of the performance area, so they shut him off, and that was good to do. I mean, what do you do, Matt? Like, at that point, I can tell you what I told people was, if for any split second you think something is unsafe, just kill the truck. Just kill it. I'm doing a car crush. I'm not going to be 30 feet in the air. You're not going to hurt me. I mean, the worst you're going to do is get your bell rung a little if you are really up there a little bit and then slap down. But just kill me. Just shut it off. You see anything you don't like, shut it off. I'll put it in park and you come talk to me and I won't get mad. Right, Matt? I think that's one of the biggest things as kill radio operators. You need that feedback from drivers. And Frank, as drivers, we have to give our operators that feedback. Like, don't do anything stupid. Don't shut me off 30 feet in the air at a monster truck show. But you can't berate kill radio. This isn't the MLB. We're not gonna tap our helmet and question the call. Like, it just is what it is sometimes. I would always rather a kill radio operator have a itchy trigger finger than be lackadaisical and not be on the stick enough. But I went back, I looked at those clips, and I definitely saw times I could have backed her down a little bit. But to your point earlier, Frank, you get a little comfortable in the truck sometimes, and what looks on review or to the people outside the truck is, boy, he's really out there getting it. He's kicking some ass. He's trying to really do this or do that. And sometimes in the truck, it just feels like another day at the office, doesn't it? I mean, you could park a truck
Yeah.
on its ass doing a slap wheelie and people think you just won world finals and you're just like, that really wasn't my best.
Oh,
You know?
absolutely.
But the pressure, and Frank, have you ever had to do car crushes at dealerships or tire stores or anything like, a company picnic event or anything like that?
Yeah, I've done some of those. I did not so much at Monster Jam. A little prior, like I'd done like one or two truck shows, which when I worked for Kohler, it'd be like just Avenger would be the only monster truck there, and I drive it, and they do all sorts of other stuff. Then I just go there, and there'd be four cars, and it's kind of the same thing, like on a horse track, or but it wasn't not like what you were in, because that's a whole different level of car crush there. Because I never really I've done morning media kind of stuff to where you run over a couple cars, you pop and drop on it, but nothing like you were doing. I mean and like especially having that Bigfoot name on that truck and on your fire suit and everything. And I watched some of the videos that you sent me, and uh, I didn't see anything that you did as far as being wrong. I mean, it was perfect. You'd pull out there, get lined up. You say, hey, you'd shut the truck and tell this guy, hey, make sure these people aren't standing right there, because I mean, as controlled as this is, I can't control the rear steer might decide to turn left.
Right.
There could be some stupid electrical problem and it just decides to do it. And as good as this truck is, it is as good as I think I am. I can't control what that $3 electrical solenoid does back there. So yeah, you did the right thing in a lot of those videos you sent me, and it goes back to, you know, um, especially you say you worked with the Hall brothers and Bigfoot, so which is like probably the most car crush heavy operations to
Yeah.
ever be in the monster truck industry.
I didn't
And
win
but you
world
guys,
finals ever, Frank, but I have crushed more cars probably than most fleet drivers on the payroll today.
hey, I didn't win it. I haven't won it either. So we're on the same page. It's like, no, what you guys were doing and what you did in that time frame was, and the success rate you guys had is pretty impressive. And obviously two operations like Bigfoot and Hall brothers. I mean, couldn't ask for better operations to be doing that kind of stuff. So you were in good hands, but also once you got there, it was like it was in your own hands.
Yeah.
So yeah. So no, like like we talked about earlier, though, Kyle, the trucks, it doesn't matter stadium in front of 100,000 people or an arena full of 2,500 or a car crush that's got 250 people. The trucks always remind you that they're the boss.
They're the boss. Yep. They're the boss, and nothing drives that point home even more than when you're the only truck there. There's no one else to fire
Oh
up and go
yeah.
make a pass while you figure your shit out.
Oh,
Like when you're the
yeah.
only truck there,
Feeling
that
the heat.
sucks when stuff goes wrong.
Oh yeah.
Yep, definitely. Well, I think unless you guys have anything else you want to add to that, I think it's at this point, we leave it where it's at and just say that, our hearts absolutely go out to the victims, the injured and the deceased from the Columbia incident. That's one that's, we're all we work around families and kids, or we're raising, families and kids. Like we're some pretty family centric, empathetic people on this show, and I know that stuff bothered you guys as much as it did me. So our hearts certainly go out to them. But as we shift gears here, we have to stay in a little bit of a somber mood for one more segment, and that's we have to just pay our respects, to real quick, like to our most recent bottom dead, or one of our most recent bottom dead center guests, and that of course being Mr. Dave R. Bennett, legendary monster truck announcer, tractor pulling announcer, even more than that. Um, I'm trying to be eloquent with my words here, boys, but I just don't have them. Like when the news came out a few days ago that we had lost Dave, I was literally just fucking stunned. I mean, I know that my job in running this stupid little YouTube show and stuff, obviously I'm going to talk to the guests more than you guys maybe get the opportunity to, but we spent some good time talking to Dave, and it was so hard to not. I feel like if you're a fan and you watch our interview with Dave, I mean, it felt like we all knew the guy when we were done talking to him, just like I think people at home felt like they just somehow knew the man now after watching him tell his story and having just talked to him a couple weeks ago and such. It's just, I mean, guys, at the end, like I told you in the group chat, I mean, his words are haunting me from the end of the episode where he's like, you know, tomorrow is not promised, so today you just got to, you know, be yourself and live your life. And I mean, man, like that, we should be so fortunate, you know, to feel the gratuity towards Dave that he shared so much of his time and his story with us. And I don't know how to say this. Like you know, it's an honor we got to have him on the show. It's just unbelievable to me. We were the last, you know, outlet, I guess, to feature him, you know, discussing anything about his career. And I hate that so much because he had so many more stories, I feel like, to tell. I feel like he was due up at some point to announce another poll or do a guest segment of a monster truck event or something, Matt. Like, I don't know, but I mean, both as an announcer and for all three of us growing up on USA stuff and that videotape, man, that one just really hit hard.
Yeah, I mean, what a unfortunate coincidence. I had someone this past weekend at a show. Actually, it was Elliot. We were riding back to his house after the show, and he's like, we were talking about the BDC show, and he's like, how wild is that right after you guys talked to him, like in an unfortunate, like wild way. I'm like, yeah, like it's a good thing to talk to these people when you can, because those stories are important to get out, and it's really great to talk to them. I'm really glad that wasn't put off in him. You know, I was just kind of here for the ride, and yeah, it's great that we got to talk to him, because it's not like anybody could control when you pass.
Yeah,
It's just good that we.
Yeah, and my thoughts on the whole thing is like, you know, is terrible approach in that age to where a lot of our legends and our heroes are going to start passing away, and it's not easy. But you know, when I heard about the Dave Bennett situation, that guy was such a part of my youth, and all the USA Motorsports videos are burned into my mind. I don't even need to watch them anymore because I could pretty much take you through it word for word, scene by scene. You know, I can take you through it, and that's, you know, as sad as it is of Dave's passing, the mark that he left on so many people, not just monster truck guys. There's a lot of truck and tractor. There's a whole, I guarantee, there's a whole society of truck and tractor pulling guys that are the same way as we are. You know, maybe just not monster trucks, but truck and tractor pulling from the 80s, 90s, and the whole Dave Bennett era. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, it's horrible. But I really can't thank him enough for the mark he left on me and all of us as far as monster truck fans for our early interest, and, you know, as you could almost say the motivation that he gave us, because it's like, oh man, that's so cool. It's like, if I get to do that one day, maybe he'll announce my name at the Kerr's Motor Spectacular, you know? So it's like, you think of it that way, it makes it a little easier. It's still difficult, but it makes it a little easier knowing that the mark he left on all of us and the imprint he left is going to last until we're gone, you know? So that's how I'm trying to look at it, you know?
Yeah, you don't want to sound flippant or disrespectful, because we're not, but you equally want to mourn as much as you want to celebrate his life, I think, in a lot of ways. I mean, I just think about, you know, one of the fans on our Instagram page that, you know, went to the YouTube video the night our interview debuted, and he was in the chat, and he won the giveaway hat that David autographed. And I'm like, man, you just don't realize how freaking close stuff can cut it. 'Cause like Matt said, you just don't know when your time's going to be. And I mean, if we'd had to push our interview back, you know, a little bit further, or if I hadn't got the hats mailed out to him when I did, or whatever, there's just it, and those things are trivial to just the simple fact of losing him. But the point I'm making is you really, really don't know. And it's just so staggering that, you know, we had just done all this with him, and Lord knows we wanted him back on the show, because I mean, he would shoot me a message about something he had remembered, or, the letter he typed up and signed when he mailed the hats back to me. I mean, he just what a wonderful man, and his daughter Shavana commented on one of the YouTube interview with him, which if you haven't seen, so we went too long in the first half of that show when it came out, and we had our whole bottom dead center as we do, and then had our interview with Dave for the second half. And I was like, we need to just get our shit out of the way. So I redid, I put a little tribute together for Dave, and then just his interview. So that's available here on the Old School Monster Trucks YouTube channel. You don't have to listen to Frank and I ramble about whatever it was we rambled about that night. You can go straight to the interview, and you can always go back to it whenever you want. But Shavana commented on that and just said, thank you for honoring my father. That's amazing. I've never met her. I don't know what she looks like. I may never meet her. Who knows? But the fact that she saw that, hey, like your dad had a positive impact on, strangers in the monster truck world that you never even would have thought of, and all the people that our show is slowly starting to reach. It's just, I think, I don't want to say it again flippantly, but boy, the man went out with a bang, I guess I could say, because he left us with brilliant words at the end of his story, but he was charming and funny and flippant and sharp as a tack, the whole interview. And so he accounted for himself very well. And fellas, I've been married 14 years this year, and that feels like an eternity to me, but I can't imagine being married for decades like he was to his wife Linda, and the pain and the loss and the loneliness that I'm sure he had to deal with on his road to recovery after losing Linda in that motorcycle accident. I'm not a real spiritual guy, but they got to be hanging out together. Like I refuse to believe otherwise. So, I think he's probably back to finding some pretty legitimate happiness, with him being back with Linda. So I won't drag that out any longer than it has to be. But I just, we had to bring up Dave's name tonight and just put some respect on it. I don't want to say one more time, because we're always going to put respect on it, but we had to,
Yep.
Finally, we're going to wrap up on a bit of a lighthearted note. And if you don't like race cars without fenders, now's the part of the show you can probably tune out.
See you later.
But yeah, see you, everybody. It's just the Frank and Kyle, tug on each other episode of BDC right here. But before we, because I'm we're breaking the fourth wall here. I'm trying to get this episode out to you guys Friday before Indy 500, so Frank and I can make our little Indy 500 picks here. But before we get to that, one more topic of monster truck note, of course, was Monster Jam and Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the IndyCar Series teamed up to present fans this past weekend with a monster truck world record speed attempt, the Power Rush, sort of loosely IndyCar themed Monster Jam identity, piloted by Camden Murphy, who is no stranger to racing on ovals and going a lot faster than monster trucks typically go. Put on what I feel was a pretty spectacular performance and a very positive image for the monster truck industry at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Frank, what was the speed? It was 103 miles an hour on the Nugget,
Yep.
something like that?
Yeah, right in there. And I mean, in my opinion, anytime you can put two motorsports together, something obviously as legitimate and real as IndyCar racing and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then you put a monster truck in that, there's nothing more mainstream than that. And hats off to those guys that put that together. I know a lot of the guys that were when I still worked there. It's a good group of people, and I guarantee the effort and the work that was put into that is second to none. And just for me, I don't care what monster truck it was, who promoter, doesn't matter. If a monster truck is on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway trying to break a world record, that's cool for everybody. I don't care who you are, and if all the naysayers want to say whatever they can say, I think it's cool. And the body, they're trying to mesh IndyCar with monster trucks, go for it. I love it. I think is the more you can do to bring monster trucks to mainstream in the Johnny come lately casual walking on the sidewalk fan. If you can do that, and it's got to be with IndyCar, unbelievable. I think it's cool. I'll leave it at that.
Well, we've all seen those war horse monster trucks out there, whether it's from neglect or just being used as a monster truck. We've all seen those war horses that would be laboring to get over 40 miles an hour before the oval
Yeah.
shaped oblong bent wheels and the hammered
Hmm.
kingpins and the, blown out steering cylinders and Heim joints that haven't been changed since Little Bush was president would cause that thing to move all over the place and wobble and
Yeah.
and hey, one of my favorite memories of the original Avenger truck was watching it race at Indianapolis, and it was beat to shit from freestyling. So it wasn't the smoothest truck in a straight line. And watching Avenger run like a bulldog with four different length legs, as it goes
Hmm.
down the track, there's a charm to that. I get that. That's just not the truck you want to do. Maybe one of Kohler's engines, but maybe the rest of the truck you don't want to do the speed attempt with necessarily. But that truck looked sharp. It looked smooth.
It
It
did.
looked
It
tight. It
did.
looked square. Those tires at those speeds starting to balloon out in the center and turn into pizza cutters. That was pretty wild. Like, I've never driven with BKT tires, Frank, but I've seen enough complaints about them, with regards to their durability and car crushing situations. But apparently they're built well enough to handle some pretty serious centrifugal force.
Hey, I mean, say what you want about them and the tires and whatever, but man, the truck looked smooth as silk. And I'll be honest with you, hearing a monster truck wind up that high and tight was pretty impressive. And that
Yeah.
thing going down this track like it was a slot car, very impressed. Camden Murphy, hats off to him, man. That's pretty impressive. Like I told you guys, I've been in a monster truck going 65, 70 miles an hour, and that's about as fast as I'd ever want to go in one. And for him to get in that thing and go that fast with it, just I can't say enough about it. And it goes back to what I said earlier. You put monster trucks in mainstream motorsports and you kind of meld them together. It's not bad for anybody. It's good for IndyCar. It's good for monster trucks. I think the whole thing is cool. Like whatever the internet people want to say, they can think, oh, it's stupid. This is that. You have to look further than your front door, and this is good for everybody involved. Monster trucks and IndyCar, motorsports in general. It's good when they combine that, and also the positive response that IndyCar made and the push that IndyCar, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway made on social media. It's just cool for monster trucks in general. It goes back to what we talked about. People don't know the difference in what monster truck's which, who it runs for, what it's doing. A monster truck is a monster truck, and to see it on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway breaking a world record is just cool.
It lifts up our sport. There's a lot of internal conflict and competition and things like that in monster trucks, but a rising tide raises all ships in a situation like this. And I think it was a good image for the sport, and it was a monster truck. Tim Hall was always a pretty smart thinker about things like this. And, he would look at, I think, something like this and think, this is good for the sport because, for one, the monster truck isn't doing something silly. And as cool as
Right.
monster truck
Mhm.
sumo wrestling on the roof of
Absolutely.
Cobo Hall was, the monster truck's not out here being used as a clown toy.
No,
It came
no,
out and
no.
showcased legitimate performance, and the average fans that doesn't, especially fans that don't like monster trucks, aren't going to realize this. But as monster truck guys, we realize just the math alone to make the truck go that fast correctly. I mean, that's not something that we sit around doing as monster truck people. We're trying to get, you know, torque, low end, instant acceleration for arenas. You swap your gears out for the long tracks when you go outdoors or to a stadium. This is different, man. I mean, I cooked a 4-course meal for my kids in the time it took him to shift from first to second. I mean, he held that shift into first
Yeah,
incredibly long, and then it just kept pulling in second gear. And I was like, man,
yeah.
that is really impressive. Like, I think I probably could have made it through, 3 Michael Bay Transformer films before he had even reached the top end of his RPMs. So I think that's awesome. And then all of us, we've driven, right? The feedback through the steering wheel and in a monster truck isn't like a road car or a race car because it's hydraulic steering. So you
Right.
don't really get that feedback from the road like what you get on your road vehicle or IndyCar is a great example, Frank, no power steering. So the
Yeah.
feedback the drivers get is 100% real of what the car is telling them what they're feeling. Where in the monster truck, I mean, Camden's not feeling these nuances so much through the steering wheel like a real race car driver would. And hydraulic steering is pretty unforgiving, man. I mean, one little wrong steering input, and I don't know. I don't know the special things they did for setting this truck up or anything like that. But hydraulic steering is fairly quick on a monster truck because it has to be. So I think it's probably pretty safe to say he had a ginger touch on that steering wheel.
Yeah.
I can tell you this, I've gone over 70 a couple times on drag strip stuff with Bigfoot trucks, and had the seat not been aluminum, my ass probably would have been a hole clear through the seat when it came time to slow down. Like accelerating is cool because you're under power and you feel like you have the most control over the truck you're going to have because you're under power. But when you have to roll out of the throttle and start wowing that baby down, that's all.
It starts doing the old, yeah.
Ooh, yeah, exactly. You're getting, you're hoping you don't get some kind of super duty death wobble in the front end or something like that. It's, I think that's a badass piece of driving, man. I think it takes a lot more guts to do something like that, just in general, than it does to line up with a school bus or something like that. That shit's still cool. That's what monster trucks are supposed to do. But this was something that I think elevated the entire sport. It didn't make us look like clowns. It made us look more professional. They did a nice fire suit for Camden. Like they paid attention. It looked to me like the truck had some extra, and I don't call them, I'm not saying this disparagingly, but had like some diapers on it. So the chance of oil in the track down when there was still IndyCar qualifying needing to happen, they weren't going to ruin the track or anything, Frank. And I think that's shows a lot of respect and care from Monster Jam's point of view for what was happening else that day.
Well, I think it shows it on both sides. I think it shows the trust that IndyCar had with them, and also the trust that Monster Jam was able to work in with Indy. So they were able to, because Kyle, as we know, that there was qualifying happening after that, and that the Indy 500 is at stake. Your starting position for a lot of these teams, some of these one-off teams, is all at stake that day after that monster truck runs down the track. So you can tell that the relationship is good there, and that's great for motorsports in general and monster trucks. So, and also going back to what you said earlier about the steering, most of the people that listen to and watch what we do here understand how monster trucks work, but to people that don't, the front steering pump runs off the crankshaft. And as the RPMs go up, the sensitivity in that front steering pump gets heightened. So I guarantee Camden had hands of just I guarantee just barely hanging on to that thing, because any little is going to be multiplied by 10, 15, 20 going that fast. So hats off to him, man. Great job. But again, the whole thing was just cool. Like we said before, doesn't matter who did it, what promoter, what company. It's just cool when you can put those two things together in a really good platform in a giant stage to make everybody look good, because it made IndyCar look good, made monster trucks look good. It was just a cool thing all the way around. And people could say what they want about the body. Hey, how you going to try to squeeze an IndyCar on a truck cage? You're really not, unless you morph it a little bit. That's what they did. But to me, it looked different than anything else anybody's ever seen.
Dude,
so,
it had no tail, it had no ears, it had no eyes. Consider me happy.
It was a legitimate motorsports themed deal. And
there was a large set of balls I thought I saw hanging off the back, but there was no other animal body parts or anything on there. But
yeah.
I have this very scientific line graph idea in my mind that I've just come up with, and it's similar to the fuck around and find out graph, where the amount that you fuck around is proportionate to how much you find out. And I think in this case, it's the how bad do I not want to make an ass of myself versus how big is the stage that I'm on. And you can't tell me that wasn't in the back of his mind. Like, I mean, never mind oiling the track down. What if he wipes out, and a monster truck goes careening through the catch fence, and now qualifying's delayed 4 hours while they rebuild the catch fence, and hopefully he's okay, and hopefully there's nothing on the outside of the racetrack. I mean, there's an inordinate amount of things that could have gone catastrophically wrong, and instead they prepared. Prior preparedness prevents piss poor, I don't know, something. You know how the saying goes, but performance. But it all went good. And then that picture of him, there's several pictures of him, but the pictures of him getting to kneel down and kiss the bricks. That would be my profile picture forever. You know, like if
You
I was
know,
a single man and I had done that and then got married and then had kids and they grew up and they got graduated and they married and I had grandkids, I would just keep photoshopping those things around the picture of me kissing the bricks
yeah.
at Indy.
Well, and Kyle, and also look, you got to think of this too. Imagine driving a monster truck from the infield onto the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Oh, unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal.
I mean, that feeling alone, it's like, okay, all right, as you fire that thing up, they're guiding you out there, and you pull out of the track, and they're telling you, okay, as soon as we'll tell you when to go. I'd be in the thing like, you got looking around like, you got to be kidding me. It's just really, this is what we're doing?
It's just like the simulator. It's just like the simulator. It's just like the simulator.
I was talking to some of the guys this past weekend in Reading, Pennsylvania, and they're like, how would you do it if you did it? I go, I would just look straight ahead, look all the way down the track, because if you start looking around and seeing where you're at and what you're doing, I just look straight ahead, keep an eye on the gauges, make sure nothing was getting ready to go get crazy. I would just have to look straight ahead to not completely bind F myself and let myself defeat myself. I'd have to just look straight out the windshield, look straight ahead, and probably listen to the crew guy on the radio tell me, I guarantee there was probably shift points they picked out. Yep. I guarantee this whole thing was practice and practice and practice. If I know the way they do things over there, it was practice and practice and practice, and to the point where they really couldn't screw it up, barring some kind of mechanical failure, which nobody can control that. But going off on a little bit of a tangent here, man, you're one locked up planetary away from something really ridiculous happening too.
I know. I thought about that. I'm like, oh man, there's all these little bearings and C clips and
so
small
much.
gear. There's just so much like you're thinking, man, did those guys get everything tight in the third member on this, or am I about to spit a Detroit locker out that's going to land in Greencastle?
And I'd hate to be a crew guy.
Oh,
I'd hate to be a crew guy. Stand that thing drives off and you're standing with your hands in your pocket just watching it. I'd be, there was somebody going, boy, I hope I tighten that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guarantee it. But
okay, but not to get too poetic.
All worked out.
Not to get too poetic or whatever, but that's the joy of all motorsport, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's when it finally comes time to cast the dice and see what you roll. That is the payoff. And you're not always going to get the payoff because not everything's always going to go right. But my God, man, when it goes right, I mean, that for me, had I been the guy driving that I would have wanted to climb the fence like Elio did when he won his fourth 500 a few years ago. God dang it, that was cool. I took Bigfoot 8 to the Firestone booth at Indy Motor Speedway a long time ago. And I was nervous just pulling into the facility. I was trembling putting tires on the truck because I was just like, I don't even belong here. This truck doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, I have arguably in my possession today the most important Stage 3 monster truck there ever will be. And even I'm just like, Jesus Christ, we're at Indy, and then just backing it into its parking spot in the garage for the Firestone exhibit, you're just nervous because you're just like, I'm at Indy. Like, did I do everything right? I turned the fuel off. Power's off, disconnect the battery.
Absolutely.
Like, it's Indy, right? I made it look good, right? I lettered the tires, right? Because it's Indy, So because it's Indy, covering off our bit with Cam there, real quick, like Frank, let's make our picks kind of for the 500. You put Malukas on my radar really big time last year when he was driving for Foyt. Obviously, he had the deal with McLaren kind of set up, and then he hurt his wrist and his arm in that off-season biking accident and kind of lost his... McLaren doesn't seem very forgiving about the driver's seat for anyone not named Pato O'Ward in IndyCar. But now he's with Penske, and that does not make me unhappy. And Malukas is starting the race on the front row. So, man, what do you think? You think the kid can do it? You think his first IndyCar win is going to be the Indy 500? Because I think of anybody at Penske right now, he's actually got the best chance.
Well, Todd, I watched a lot of the practice and paid attention to a lot of that stuff. And obviously qualifying was condensed into one day. And it just shows you that I think he's ready. But also Indy is Indy. And there's a lot of big guns further back in the field that I think, qualifying trim and qualifying prep is one thing. There's a lot of guys that have really good racecraft. But I think that are going to be that are going to weather the storm, and by pit strategy to get themselves from out of the mid to back. I think it's going to be, man, this is one of the most wide open Indy 500s, I think, in since last year, right?
Yeah.
So,
We say
but
that, but then Alex Palou is on pole again. The
right,
Max Verstappen of IndyCar, the 2005 Tom Meents of IndyCar, the Jim
yeah.
Miller Barbarian of the County Fair circuit of IndyCar racing. Uh, damn it! Like Palou's going to be a threat. You know what I worry about Malukas, where I think his one big weak spot is, Frank? It's that racecraft late in the race when the tail of the dragon forms with a few laps left in the draft and the toe is really big, and being able to do what Newgarden did a couple years ago and allow I think it was Award to take the lead from him, with a lap
Yep.
to go or whatever, and then to expertly redraft him and to get around him for that win. Those are the kind of pieces of racecraft that Malukas just simply can't have all of those things that he would want in his toolbox yet. I think he's heading in that direction, but I'm just saying that he's who I'm pulling for. If anyone not named Palou wins the race, then I'm just going to say I think Malukas finds a way to take it. But I'm curious to who you're looking at besides Palou.
Well, and the funny thing is, Kyle, what we learned by watching qualifying and the way qualifying worked out on Sunday is you can see how much that track changes from the beginning towards the end of the day. And you can see the changes, like Felix Rosenquist was outstanding early.
Mm-hmm.
Then he kind of dropped off. And some of these guys were fast and they dropped off. And some guys were slow and then picked it up. So, man, it seems really wide open. And I mean, you can never count out Scott Dixon. I mean, give me a break. Guy's a legend. He is. And I haven't looked at the weather yet for Sunday, but
don't look.
That could. Oh, great! Are we going to have to watch this thing on Monday?
No, I think you'd have to watch it the following weekend by the looks of the forecast right now.
God.
I hope they can get it in. It's about a 50% chance of rain as of today. I hope they can get it in, but either way, I think there's going to be rain at some point, even if it's not impacting the race directly. It means a greener racetrack even than what they were going to already have. So, that affects things. I think, somebody like Dixon that can manage his fuel really, really well, that's obviously super critical, but also the hybrid power deployment, all that kind of stuff. I saw that come into play a lot in qualifying. I'm sure you did as well too, where I was surprised some guys weren't deploying. It might have even been Scotty Mack, where at least if the graphic was to believe, I think he was, and forgive me if I'm speaking out of turn here, but I thought it was Scotty Mack, had like 39% of his hybrid deployment available and didn't use it on the last straightaway or something like that. So, I mean, who knows how all that stuff shakes out. But I picked Malukas, but you got to make a pick. And I didn't mean to steal your pick. We can pick the same, but I got to get a pick from you.
Well, I got my sentimental pick is obviously Santino Ferrucci with the AJ Foyt operation. With my long-standing connection with that group there, I think he showed some really consistent speed throughout qualifying and made it all the way to the final round and ended up qualifying, was it fifth? So he's going to be in the middle of the second row. So I'm telling you, and he's never finished under 10th his entire career racing at Indy. So I think he's got a shot, man. The Foyt cars, even Collette, the number 4 car, was running strong until they had that penalty for using some unapproved fasteners and this kind of stuff, which IndyCar even said it wasn't a performance enhancer, but the part that they used had to be attached, came from Dallara with this package of stuff to attach it. And I think they were just trying to maybe make it a little better, not competition wise, but just maybe for their own, peace of mind. But
sounds familiar from last year, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But I'll
maybe
tell you
a
what,
little.
The Collette kid that's driving for Foyt, he's been in Indy, which is a place that can humble people quick. He seemed to have some good confidence and is looked really good out there and seems comfortable. So if now he's all the way in the back, it's like, okay, just weather the storm. It's a long race. Who knows? But I'm telling you though, Malukas looking strong, and I just got this feeling about Santino Ferrucci. I'm using my emotional and sentimental thoughts in this pick, but man, I would love to see with AJ Foyt, at 91 years old, if that 14 car could roll into victory lane, it would be one of the coolest stories probably in the last decade or 20 years for motorsports or IndyCar.
Oh,
So,
hugely.
and then also too, if Malukas rolled in there for Penske, young guy, and also we have to bring up the double that is going to happen or being attempted by Catherine Legg, who is driving for the HMD team, which is owned by David Malukas' father, and teamed up with AJ Foyt to make that happen. And then also she's running the 600 for BJ McLeod's team, the Live Fast team, the number 78. So, man, it'd be really cool. And anything I've never met her or been around her. I follow her on social media and just see all the stuff she does. And she's seems to be a super energetic and talented race car driver. So for her to get this opportunity, hats off to HMD, AJ Foyt, and the Live Fast team with BJ McLeod for making this happen with her sponsors and everything. It's just a really cool deal. And everything I've heard about her is that she's super deserving and it has the talent. So the talent might be there, but we got to see if the equipment's going to be there. But it'd be nothing cooler for her to see her complete this. I mean, it's cool for motorsports in general, just like the Power Rush thing. It's just cool when stuff like this happens because it doesn't happen all the time. So,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, there's so much to watch. There's so much to pay attention to with Indy this year. It's going to be a great, obviously the greatest day in motorsports for guys like me and you. So I'm looking forward. I can't wait.
Well, I thought I had read that she was the first non-American to try the double and the first female to try the double, which is cool. And also, I was breaking this down with a buddy at work today, actually. I think her approach to the double is totally different than Larson's was, right? Kyle Larson being who he is, it needed to be a top 5 at Indy, top 10 at worst, and then it needed to be challenging for a win at the Coke 600. No one's going to be expecting that from Catherine Legg. I think we all just want to see her do the mileage. So that'll be really interesting to see if she can pull that off. I think if weather plays a factor in this race, that's going to change so many things. You might be racing to halfway, right? So she might not be able to get the mileage in depending on what the weather does, but also in terms of, like a guy like Scott Dixon, does saving fuel even matter at this point? If the forecast looks like we're racing to halfway or, 3/4 or whatever. So lots of variables. Matt Looker, are you, you appear to still be awake, so that's good. I threw a Barbarian reference in there to keep you hooked.
I did. Oh, I did.
I would be remiss if I didn't point out, by the way, that a number of monster trucks have held the world speed record for a monster truck. Bigfoot had it at one point, I think. Bad Habit and Joe Sylvester had it at one point. But I believe the recent record of my memory, at least, was Jim Miller and the Nitro powered Bavarian. So I'm going to at least let it,
one.
Let the history books show that Camden Murphy took the record from the previous 101 miles an hour by Jim Miller and the Bavarian. We're just going to make that up on the spot. And I'm going to tell everyone that asked me, it was a truck called the Bavarian, as a matter of fact. Lee Sprung from Nokomis, Illinois.
That's right.
Anyhow, get your Bavarian shirt on the OSM T-Mart. Show your support for the biggest nitro chugger our sport has ever seen. Anyhow, Looker, Indy 500 picks, even if you just want to throw a dart at the wall, pull up the entry list, and as long as you don't pick Stingray Rob, we won't razz you too hard.
My first motorsports love outside of monster trucks, because number one, I'm not sure if you call it I guess we'll call it a motorsport. So my first circle track love was Indy cars, because that was what my dad loved. The first even including dirt tracks, the first live race I went to was IndyCar at New Hampshire. I believe in 94 was the first, 95 was the first year. So I'm going to go with Scott Dixon, because I'll admit I don't follow it much anymore. It's just too much going on, I guess, whatever. But I'll pick Scott Dixon. Yeah.
That's a good safe
Not
pick.
a bad choice.
No.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
we needed somebody on the show to be contrarian and pick a Honda powered car too, because Frank and I both picked Chevrolet cars, so we needed a Honda pick out there. Although the Spectre, the inevitable hot air balloon of victory that is Alex Pillow, still hovers above us all. Unfortunately, last question for Indy: what's your milk choice? Mine is whole milk, and there should be no other choices but whole milk. But I'm willing to listen to what you guys think.
No, it should be whole milk. Come on. What
Yeah.
are you, almond
Whole
milk?
milk, absolutely.
2%? Come on.
Yeah,
Come on.
I know. What's Ron Swanson say? Dear skim milk, be milk or be nothing.
That's right.
What is
Hey,
what does
Kyle.
Napoleon Dynamite say when he's like, "Oh, this one got into the onion patch."
Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
yeah.
Kyle, I just had a thought about the speed record, if that's cool.
Yeah, let's hear it.
At first, when I saw they did it on the backstretch, the whole thing was cool to me. But I'm like, the backstretch. But then when I'm hearing Frank talk about he's probably doing this driving out there, so I also like sprint cars.
Yeah.
And Knoxville, mecca of sprint cars, right? So not in competition, but I got to drive a monster truck around the track, driving it back from pit party to intro spots. And not something I'd brag about, but something to me that's cool is I got to drive a motorsport vehicle on the Knoxville track. I drove it down the front stretch and around 1 and 2. So I can't imagine what Camden, because I know he's a cool guy. I like him. I used to work with him a bunch. He loves circle track racing. Just to have a monster truck out on the Brickyard, I bet he couldn't have even done it on the front stretch, because you're looking down and you're like, oh, there's the tower that I've watched my entire life. The 2 grandstands on either side. Nope, I'm pulling off. We can't do this. Yeah.
No, I know that the nerves would have been tough. The
Yeah.
strain on the submarine strap between the legs would have been tough.
That's right.
Or there might be,
like, oh man, this one's a tough one here. All right.
There might be a little something else pushing on that strap. You know what I mean?
Should have wore 2 pairs. No, I just immense. I mean, as monster truck guys that have appreciation for other kinds of motorsports, and I mean, that's no small track either, right? You don't just take her for a quick rip around the half mile at Bristol to impress everybody in the stands. I mean, my Lord, that track is longer than Rush's 3 albums at the end of the 70s. Like, this shit is long. And it takes a long time to get anywhere there. I mean, everything's farther apart. It's like Las Vegas. It looks, but it's actually really stretched out. I mean, so just getting over to where he needed to do the attempt, I'm sure was just probably felt like it took forever to get over there. But I'm proud for monster trucks. I don't know Camden personally, so I can't be like, oh, I'm proud of him, but like, I'm happy for him. I think that's awesome. Like that's a kind of joy and excitement and success that no monster truck driver has ever had in that spot and may never actually get to have again too. There could be no other monster truck driver might ever kiss the bricks at Indy. That's wild to think about.
Yeah. And I think it cannot be stated enough. This was not a monster truck at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This was a monster truck in the middle of a qualifying day for the biggest race day you could argue in the world.
Yeah.
Qualifying for the Indy 500, they said, okay, we're going to let you guys go out in the middle of our qualifying day. Bell didn't just go rent the speedway and send a truck down it.
Yeah.
Whatever caused that to happen, there was some serious trust and respect from IndyCar going towards Monster Jam, and that is unreal to me.
I pictured Doug Bowles and his assistants hovering over a laptop the night before looking at just how badly monster trucks can make things go wrong. Let's see if this Camden guy is any good. And then they watch every part and piece flying off of Dragonoid over the course of several freestyles. And they're like, Jesus Christ, this guy's going to be on our track with one of these things. I mean, a thundering elephant of destruction with some 20-something driving it or whatever. And I'm sure there was a little bit of apprehension, and monster trucks have a way of screwing things up, but they also have a way of pulling it out I would rank this up there with like Runty's airplane jump in terms of don't screw this up.
Oh,
yeah, that's fair.
Maybe that's an unpopular opinion. I don't want to hurt any of my friends' feelings that have blue tinted glasses like I so often wear. and rest his soul Dan Runny. But I would say in terms of pressure, this is right up there with it. There's no jumping involved, but other than that, I mean, you can't. I would rather jump a 747 in a field at, BFE Airport outside Nashville. No offense to anybody there. I would rather do that if something's going to go wrong than screw up at Indy. I mean, damn.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
if you think he's getting a lot of attention on the internet now, imagine if that planetary would have locked up like Frank said, and then Power Rush starts using its roll cage in frame snouts to carve chunks out of the
Oh,
speedway. The asphalt
Yeah, imagine
department at
that.
Indianapolis Motor Speedway is not prepared to fix the divots that a monster truck can make in asphalt.
no, no, not at all.
No, I mean, when they have to call a backhoe out, then qualifying's on pause for a while.
Oh,
Yeah. Uh,
but man,
So,
it just goes back to the trust in
yep.
between the two groups. I mean, that says a lot for IndyCar and Monster Jam. To be honest with you, yeah, I don't care. We talked about before. I don't care who you like, who you don't like. That just goes miles for the respect that they both have for each other.
No, most definitely, most definitely. Well, that is a an astoundingly positive note, I think, to end what was, a pretty serious, straightforward episode tonight. But I appreciate your guys's, your transparency, your candidness, your thoughts, and your opinions on the serious issues that we tried to tackle this evening. And it's a fine line we walk, right? We all have private conversations with ourselves, our friends, our peers, and things like that, and we all, of course, we have stronger opinions or more direct or more coarse thoughts and opinions in private. But I will say we feel the responsibility on this show to not shy away from discussing some of these tough topics, but also make sure we are using this platform for the overall betterment in whatever little tiny way we can. We want to see monster trucks get better. We want to see the promoters in rodeo arenas keep doing business. We want to see them keep doing shows. We just want to see them do them better, do them safer, do them smarter, protect their business, protect their fans, protect their drivers. We all just need to be better. We can all find ways we can be better, everyone on the show included. So, take the criticisms or the opinions how you will, and I'll take the blame and the heat for anything anybody said that somebody doesn't like out there. But at the end of the day, we are genuinely, it would be very easy to come on here and call out names and slag people off and shit on people. And we would catch hell for that. In some respects, it would be justified. But what we're trying to do is tackle some of these difficult issues with an eye towards better, trying to push for the betterment, I would say, of the sport. Wouldn't you guys agree with that?
yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. All three of us, pretty much the majority of our life have been involved in this business. So even when I'm done, I want to see it keep going. I want to be able to watch that next generation and respect what they're doing, knowing that I tried to do the best I could when I was in it. So, so all we're trying to do here is just keep pushing it forward. It doesn't matter, like I said, does promoters' names, drivers' names, doesn't matter. We just want this whole thing to keep going. So
Yep.
the next generation of fans and the next group of us, because there's going to be a group of us somewhere at some point that are talking about what we're doing now as old school. So we just need to keep that going forward, keep pushing.
Someday we're going to have to change the name of this to older school monster trucks because we're going to be so damn old that this stuff's going to
Yeah.
be ancient history.
Hmm.
All right. Well, listen, thank you everybody out there that's tuned in. We hope you gave the whole show a listen and consider some of the thoughts and opinions and analysis we had to share. We look forward to, hearing what you have to say down in the comments and reading your thoughts on stuff. Comment responsibly. You know what I mean? Show some respect. If you're one of those guys that thinks making coarse jokes on the internet at the expense of other people's tragedy makes you look cool, that's certainly not the case. And we can't stop you from doing it everywhere, but we're not going to tolerate that stuff over here. It's real deal stuff and it's super serious. So thanks to those that, give up some time to watch the show and take the time to comment intelligently and have some constructive, discussion with your peers down below and over on the Instagram channel. But for Matt Looker and Frank Grummel, I'm Kyle Doyle. We're signing off for this week's edition of the Bottom Dead Center Show. We've got more medium raw episodes coming at you still this season. We've got our Dan Patrick interview coming yet this season. Hopefully one or two more Bottom Dead Center interview segments even coming with you this season. But we've got some exciting shows in store. Next one will be USA Motorsports from Memphis, Mid-South Coliseum, 1989, featuring Bigfoot 3, Taurus 2, and the Coors Bruiser, with one of Frank's all-time favorites, Scott Stevens, behind the wheel of the Bruiser in 1989. So look out for that here in a little over a week's time. In the meantime, keep enjoying what we have on the channel. Let us know what you think. Support us on the OSMT Mart, and make sure you watch that Dave Bennett interview. We're going to jump off of here, call it a night, and probably text each other some mother-in-law jokes here after a little bit. So take care. That's all for this episode of Bottom Dead Center.